Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. School is back and we're so excited to see you. This is going to be an exciting second season and we have lots of fun episodes planned for you to enjoy. Today we're joined by a few of our elementary school principals to talk about some new changes to the way that we approach grading. And first we have Dr. Salethia James and Dr. Susan Smith. So welcome on to the show. We're so excited to have y'all. Do you want to go around and kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you got into education?
Sure. I'm Dr. Susan Smith, the principal at Yargo Elementary. And when I started in education, I actually was in the field of business and got a business degree. And I knew once I was in that field that just was not the right field for me. So shortly thereafter, I changed and moved into education and got a degree in elementary ed and middle school education. And then the door has just opened for me to serve children for 20 plus years. So I'm just very excited to be in Barrow and hope to be here a long time and one day retire. So it's just been a great journey.
Awesome. And I am Dr. Salethia James. I currently serve as the Director of Elementary Education. I have been in Barrow County for about 8 years, serving as an assistant principal as well as most recently as a principal. Prior to coming to Barrow County, I served in DeKalb County for about 16 years, anywhere from a classroom teacher to school level positions and district level positions. And I've always known I've wanted to be a teacher, so I'm super excited to be able to support the work that will be done in all 10 of our elementary schools this year.
We're so glad that we have you guys here, and we know that you guys make such an impact to Barrow County School System, and you guys are awesome. So since we're talking a little bit about the standard-based grading system, can you guys explain what that is?
Absolutely. So standards-based grading aims to promote and provide a more accurate picture of a student's understanding and skills. So instead of overall grades that might include extra credit or even behavior, our students will receive grades that reflect their proficiency in specific areas such as math concepts or reading concepts. So in other words, this means that in a standards-based grading system, you won't see grades like A, B, or C, or any numerical grades. Instead, you might see ratings from a proficiency scale like exceeding the standards or demonstrating the standards or developing the standards, emerging with the standards, or not yet demonstrating the standards.
So how is that different from traditional grading?
And the beauty is our teachers can set goals with students, and the goals will be based on that particular student's need. So not everybody will have the same goal.
Yeah.
So if they're working towards a goal and they're not meeting that goal or exceeding in that particular goal, then that's where the teacher can then assess that, can tailor the instruction to specifically meet that student's need. And if that student's need kind of pairs up with a couple of other students, then that's where that small group instruction will come into play. So they may need some type of specific intervention, but if not, then the teacher can provide that instruction that is needed to help fill that gap so that they can feel like they are growing in that particular area that they are working on.
Which has Barrow traditionally done? Why are we switching?
So we are looking at this as just some adjustments, looking at how we can approach measuring and monitoring student academic success, how we can best support them academically, instructionally, how we can just truly meet the needs of our students. We are so excited to take on standards-based grading because it does give us the opportunity to look at specific and individual standards that our teachers will be teaching to determine, have I even reached mastery on these standards? Oftentimes, our students may not reach mastery, so this gives us a different lens to look through so that we can make sure that students are reaching mastery.
So where did Barrow County School System get the idea to shift into this?
We, as leaders, one of our principals that was here first brought it up, and so that's when the research process began. And we began to look at, are there other systems utilizing not only the standards-based grading, but going into the trimester grades that we are beginning to implement. And so we began to study the research, we began to look at it, we began to call other systems and ask what are they doing and how has it gone in regards to the trimester and the standards-based. And we had a lot of discussion in our district principal meetings, and then we talked about it with our SGT school governance teams, and it was really, we had a lot of questions, but it was looked on favorably, and so therefore we decided to move forward with it because the other systems that we spoke to said they had a lot of success. I don't know if you want to add to that.
I agree.
James?
It's similar to what we talked about with standards-based grading. This gives us the opportunity for specific feedback, to provide that feedback for that targeted instruction, and just to make sure that students are receiving more time during a grading period just to learn the standards.
Yeah, our teachers are really excited about having that a little bit additional time because, assessment is very important, but we also want, because it gives us information, but we also want to maximize our instructional time. So this is going to give us that a little bit of extra that we've been looking for.
I like that you mentioned the teachers being excited. So how have they prepared for this new change? Were they preparing before school let out in the summer? Did they know about this upcoming change, or are they now getting up their stuff to prepare?
I think we've started the conversations. We sent out a survey to the teachers about trimester grading specifically, but we're also aware that we're in this together. This is not something that our teachers will be on an island by themselves. Our goal is to walk with them, walk alongside them, be able to support the work that they do, because the work that they are doing is extremely important. So just taking the approach of just walking alongside with them as well as our families, because essentially it will be new to our families as well. So making sure that we are providing opportunities where we can communicate what standards-based grading is, what trimestral scheduling is, just making sure we're providing those opportunities. We are hoping to provide some parent workshops so that we can kind of discuss some of these opportunities with families, as well as using our content specialists to go into schools on a monthly basis to meet with teachers and to support teachers as they do the work.
I'm really excited about the parent workshops, and I really hope our parents will come. But I do want to add to that, our literacy coach for the district has also been very instrumental in supporting this process. And she has come into all the schools to meet with the teachers so that everybody has the same training. So there will be consistency there in terms of our understanding and supporting the teachers. So we're really super excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. And the beauty of it is we have a literacy content specialist and we also have a math content specialist, and they've worked tirelessly with our instructional coaches as well as our building leaders to make sure that we're ready for this moment. So I think we're ready for it.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have Aperil Sellers and Dr. Lauren Carter here to join us to talk a little bit more about this subject. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Absolutely. My name is Lauren Carter, and I am the proud principal at Auburn Elementary School. This is my 21st year in education and my 19th with the Barrow County School System. I've served as a teacher, an instructional coach, an assistant principal, and now a principal at the elementary and middle school level.
Wow. So I am Aperil Sellers. I am also the principal here in Barrow County. I have served as a teacher in Barrow County, as an instructional coach as well, an assistant principal, and now the very proud principal at Wholesome Beck Elementary School. I'm going close to 20 years now in education. It definitely blends together.
So what does the transition plan look like as we move into standards-based grading?
Yeah, great question. One thing that we are doing is we were beginning with communication with our teachers. It started there. That's the important work. We are now beginning to transition and communicate with our families, and our students is going to be that next step. We want to make sure that everyone is aware what standards-based grading is, but also how that's going to change what we do in the school, as well as how we communicate with families how their child is progressing.
So how are you guys going to communicate to the families? Are you sending out remind messages, parent link? How can people expect to get these messages?
Absolutely. So this is actually one first step that we are doing here. Our elementary schools are also providing a parent letter home with our open house packets. So tomorrow when you come to open house, you will be able to receive that initial letter. We are also going to be sending information home through Remind, of course, our website. Different schools are holding different types of events like family engagement events in order to communicate exactly, again, what standards-based grading is. And of course, we're going to be doing that throughout the year. It's not just now. It'll be an ongoing process so that families at every step of the way, they're going to know exactly what to expect.
That's good. So, for families that might have questions immediately, like as soon as they get to open house, and how are you guys going to go about answering those questions?
Sure, yeah. I would say the first stop is to check with the teacher. The homeroom teacher is a wealth of information and will be kind of on the front lines of standards-based grading. And so I would encourage you definitely to reach out to the homeroom teacher. And if you have any further questions, by all means, the principals are always happy to help.
So, when can families expect this transition?
Well, we've been kind of building towards a full implementation of standards-based grading for several years, but we're excited to fully implement it kindergarten through fifth grade this year. I think it is going to give families a much clearer picture of where students are in relation to the standards, rather than a 94 in language arts. Like, what does that exactly mean in relation to Georgia standards? And so I think parents just need to be in constant communication with the teachers about the progression, that learning progression. Where are they in relation to the standards, and maybe what kind of support does their student need to be successful in achieving that standard?
From a family engagement point of view, how are families going to be able to get hands-on with their students in this new standard-based grading?
Absolutely. So one thing that this standards-based grading is going to allow us to do at schools is it's going to give us a common language with our families, which is why that communication piece is so important. So instead of using the word report cards, we're now calling them progress reports. So making sure that we have the same language. Obviously, we are always going to want to communicate directly with families, but it's a two-way dialogue. It's conversation back and forth. And what these progress reports are going to do with that standards-based grading is going to tell us where in that learning progression our students currently are or their children are. And then we can tell them exactly what they need to do to kind of master that standard before they're able to move on. Right now, with numerical grades that we were using in fourth and fifth grade, again, while families understood numerical grades because that's what we grew up on, it really didn't tell us where in the learning that children, our child really was. And that's what we're trying to really avoid, because we need families to know exactly in all areas, in all academic areas, exactly where they are so that we can move them forward.
Yeah, parent-teacher conferences are going to be really important because that's going to be a great time for families to sit down with teachers and really look at all the standards that they've covered and where they are in the progression of those standards. And then again, kind of where we need to go, and what do we need to provide for that student to be successful in achieving that standard by the end of the school year.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing it'll allow us to do too is make goals with students. It's not enough for families to understand and for teachers to know. We need our students to really understand this is where you are currently and this is where we need you to be by the end of the year. And what that does again is it gives us a goal setting opportunity, whether it be before a parent teacher conference, before a large test, or even at the beginning of the year. We always kind of set goals with our children and they're able to check in with them. And so it gives students kind of that ownership in their own learning as well.
So, what are these progress reports going to look like?
So as far as the progress report layout, it's going to be very similar to what we have now, but instead of using a 1, 2, 3, 4, they have, meaning the district has come up with a 5-point scale, and we're going to be using word descriptors instead of numbers. And so a level 4 or a 5 is for a child who has met that standard, that expectation, or risen above it. And what it really allows us to do is to carve out for the 1 through 3 that learning piece, because what's happened in the past is that if you had not mastered the standard, well, you would get a level 2. That level 2 is such a broad term that it was really hard to narrow down. So does that mean they were just introduced to the standard, or were they almost able to master it? And so again, the format itself is going to look very similar. It's just going to continue with the content, meaning language arts, the reading, math. So we'll have that. We'll have factors affecting achievement. So that might be a behavior that we are describing. But again, we're using those descriptor words in order to truly explain where a child is progressing and performing.
Yeah, and it'll be broken down into much more specific skills as opposed to just math. Like, how are we doing in math? We're looking at those high impact standards and where they are in relation to those.
So that's going to be, say, if you're in math, like you said, it's not going to say math, it's going to be multiplication or subtraction. Or
it'll be much more specific to the actual skills that make up math.
So what does the plan look like for providing professional learning for our teachers?
Yeah, so our schools will be providing training on the learning progression as well as the rubrics that are aligned to the standards, and then working to help them learn to assess student work accurately in relation to the standards. And so it's definitely going to be somewhat of a learning curve, I think, but I definitely think it's going to be worth it. Yeah, so we had teams of teachers work really hard last year with Dr. Beth McMichael and Ms. Tamara Bolden for ELA and math to really look at every single standard and create a learning progression and a rubric for all of those skills.
Okay. So is there a communication plan for the district for the rollout process?
There is, and in fact, this is again one step of that plan, because again, we know that not only do our teachers and staff need to be aware, but our families need to be aware, and our students need to understand how they are being assessed as well. But we also have information going home in print. Always go to our school website. That's going to be kind of our beacon of truth, if you will. So there will be information there. Of course, we're going to send home information through Remind, through Facebook or social media. We like to use that in the Barrow County School System. And of course, we're going to be using, teacher newsletters. Some schools have newsletters that go home as well. So there's a lot of, forethought going into that communication plan. We want to make sure that everyone who has a question, that we are trying to access them in any way possible. And of course, we're going to be having back to school meetings, so that if you need to, meet face to face, then, we'll have that as well.
They're also planning on doing district workshops for families as well. So that'll provide a space to ask questions and learn more about standards-based grading.
All right, and we're back. Let's go ahead and introduce our new guest for this segment.
Hi, I'm Mindy Reid. I'm the proud principal at Bethlehem Elementary. This will be my 12th year as the principal there. I started as a 4th grade teacher 25 years ago and taught both 4th and 2nd grade, but absolutely love my school and happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Neher. I'm the principal of Winder Elementary School, and I've been the principal this will be my 6th year. I've been in education for 24 years, and I've taught 1st and 2nd grades, and I've been an instructional coach and an assistant principal. It's the best job in the world.
We're so glad to have you guys on the show, and I know Barrow County School System is so glad to have you here. We're going to just jump straight into our questions. So what are some common concerns that families may have about this new standards-based grading?
I think anytime that you have a change, there might be some concerns, just making sure that they understand what those changes are. And really, they're just adjustments. We have been doing standards-based grading for quite some time. We're just doing it a little bit differently now. And our 4th and 5th grade students are no longer receiving those letter grades as they did before. So I think anytime you have a change, there's a little bit of anxiety that comes with that. But in terms of other concerns, I don't really feel like there will be too many.
So would you say that this change is going to make students feel more motivated in the classroom, or?
Well, studies that we have looked at have all suggested that by increasing the amount of feedback students get about their specific mastery of certain subject areas, that they have an increase in their intrinsic motivation. And so they're motivated to learn and get better because it feels great, and it helps shore up their self-esteem. So we believe that it is a positive change and will increase their motivation.
Okay. I want to know a little bit more about the behind the scenes of all of this. Did all of the elementary school principals kind of get together to kind of come up with this?
Yes.
Walk me through that.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a big process. Of course, we made that shift to trimester reporting as well. So we've got a couple of changes that have to do with grading and assessment. But our elementary principal team got together with our director of elementary education and our teaching and learning department and really talked about what would be most beneficial for our students, and really letting our students, our families, and our teachers have a good handle on how students are progressing with learning and mastering standards. And so this idea was born, and we have worked on it for really over a year to get this process going.
And I think the idea overall was just to really optimize the time that teachers are able to work with their students and provide in-depth instruction into their content areas.
I think that it helps pinpoint exactly what we are measuring students for. We're not just looking for a letter grade anymore. We're not looking for that standard percentage grade that we all traditionally received in school when we were growing up. It really helps teachers pinpoint where are the students on a scale, on a progression on those standards, so that they can better serve them.
I think the notion that the grade is the finish line is what we're trying to sort of to change so that we can see that learning is all part of this contextualized spectrum that we undertake throughout not only our school careers, but throughout our lives. And so it's not about achieving a certain grade on a report card, but where am I in learning about, whatever that content area is? Where have I mastered, or where am I strong in that area? And where do I still need support to grow?
Let's see. What are some success stories from school districts that have implemented standards-based grading?
Well, time and again, we have seen research that shows that as a district has moved towards standards-based grading and these assessment practices, that overall students' intrinsic motivation goes way up, that they embrace a growth mindset of, I may not be there yet, but with continued perseverance, I will get there, and the right tools and feedback. And so that's really what we want to continue to inspire in every student in Barrow County.
So we'll start seeing more of a positive mindset from our students, our families, everybody just feeling more confident within themselves, which leads to being more successful.
That's our sincere hope.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, we really will see a clearer picture of what a student can do versus a letter grade that sometimes, is kind of ambiguous and we don't really know what that actually means. This progress report will really lay it out for them.
So from a leadership perspective, how are teachers feeling about this in this new swap?
Well, I think that it is a paradigm shift in all ways. And so in order to help teachers feel more comfortable with it, we've started that process even as far back as almost a year ago in talking about how this shift will impact how we work with students, how we assess them. I think it will increase the depth of collaboration that teachers have among each other, because the nuances of standards-based grading kind of require that. And I love that about standards-based grading, that teachers will really need to work together and figure out what a particular student may need and how to really call upon the strengths of their team to meet those needs.
And really, the biggest shift we'll see at the elementary level will be with our 4th and 5th grade teachers. Our primary teachers have already been using a standards-based approach. It is a little bit different now. The scale looks a little bit different, and the progressions are much more defined for us, which is great. But I think the biggest shift will be for 4th and 5th grade teachers, because in the past, they've done both. They've given standards-based ratings and they've given letter grade or percentage-based grades. So they're dropping that percentage-based and letter grade and can focus solely on looking more specifically at what kids can do. So it is a little bit of a mindset shift for our teachers, but I think they're excited about it.
That's good. So I want to go over a little bit of the key notes, and you guys feel free to input. From this episode, we've kind of talked a little bit about making sure parents attend the workshops, check out the website, listen to this podcast, this awesome podcast. Just be keeping up with all things standard-based grading so that you can know how to best help your student and how to understand what all these changes are going to be. What do you feel like are the main things that you want to tell a parent that if they should hear something on this podcast?
I guess I want them to hear that we're here for them, and that we know that changes can sometimes bring questions, concerns, or anxiety, and to know that your school is there for you and for your child, and that if you have questions along the way as we move forward, to ask those questions, and don't be afraid. No question is too silly. We'd be happy to answer those questions. I think that this is a process that we're all going to have a better picture and a better understanding of what students know and are able to do, and that will just help everyone be on the same page. I think the biggest thing is to just be involved, to be engaged, to ask questions, and to just be there to support your child.
We want nothing more than to have parents partner with us in supporting each child's success. And so the district's priority of communicating about standards-based grading and the shift to trimesters, I think, is one reflection of that at sort of the macro level, the organizational level. But each and every one of our teachers can absolutely loves to work with parents, and anytime that there are questions or concerns, whether it's a remind message or a face-to-face meeting, we really value that time and would love to, embark on this process together with them.
This is a good thing. Barrow County School System is growing. We are kicking off a great school year, and we think that the future is bright here at Barrow County School Systems. That was a great deep dive into the changes that we'll be implementing this year with standard-based grading. This is a big transition, and we want to make sure that your family is in the loop throughout the whole process. If you have any questions, please reach out and be sure to go to our website for the most up-to-date information available. And remember, the learning journey never stops. It continues beyond the bell.